Imagine 9 experienced hikers disappearing into the desolate Ural Mountains, only to be found weeks later dead. Their tents slashed from the inside, bodies strangely disfigured, and an official explanation that leaves more questions than answers. The Dyatlov Pass Incident isn't just a cold case. It's a chilling enigma that has baffled investigators for decades, and today we're diving deep into the terrifying truth. Welcome back to our channel. The story we're re-exploring today is one of the most unsettling and perplexing mysteries of the 20th century. In the winter of 1959, a group of 9 spirited hikers, mostly students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, embarked on an ambitious expedition. Led by Igor Dyatlov, they were skilled, well-equipped, and ready to conquer a challenging route through the Northern Ural Mountains. They were capturing their journey on film, full of smiles and optimism, completely unaware that this would be their final adventure. Their goal was to reach a Torton, a mountain whose name in the local Mansi language ominously translates to "don't go there." The expedition was planned meticulously, with designated return dates. But as the days turned into weeks, the expected telegram signaling their safe return never arrived. A deep, ominous silence settled over their families and friends. Panic began to creep in, and soon a massive search operation was launched, involving aircraft, soldiers, and volunteers. They were venturing into the same unforgiving wilderness that had swallowed the hikers whole. After weeks of searching, on February 26th, the search party made their first horrifying discovery. They found the group's tent, perched on the slopes of Kolatsiakl, or Dead Mountain. The scene was bizarre. The tent was heavily damaged, but not by the elements. It had been sliced open from the inside. It was clear the hikers had fled in a hurry, abandoning their warm clothing, supplies, and shoes in the brutal sub-zero temperatures. Footprints led away from the tent, down the slope towards a nearby forest, but they told a confusing story. Some were barefoot, others in just socks. Why would 9 experienced hikers flee their only shelter, underdressed, into the deadly cold? The first bodies were found soon after, scattered across the snowy landscape. 2 were discovered near the remains of a small fire under a large pine tree, over a kilometer from the tent. They were dressed only in their underwear. 3 more bodies, including that of Igor Dyatlov, were found between the pine tree and the tent, seemingly frozen while trying to return. The initial official cause of death was listed as hypothermia. It seemed like a tragic, but perhaps explainable accident. But this was only the beginning of the mystery. It took another 2 months for the remaining 4 hikers to be found, and their discovery turned the case on its head. Buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine, these 4 had suffered devastating and peculiar injuries. One had a crushed chest, another had severe internal trauma, and a third, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue and eyes. The forensic expert at the time stated that the force required to cause such injuries was comparable to being hit by a car. Yet, there were no external signs of a struggle or impact on their bodies. The official conclusion remained death by an unknown compelling force. This vague explanation did nothing to quell the growing suspicion and speculation. What could have caused such panic and inflicted such bizarre injuries? Let's explore some of the leading theories. One of the more scientific explanations is the infrasound theory. This suggests that a rare weather phenomenon called a Kármán vortex street could have generated low-frequency sound waves. Infrasound is inaudible to the human ear, but it can induce feelings of intense panic, nausea, and disorientation. Could this have driven the hikers into a state of irrational terror, causing them to slash their way out of the tent and flee? It might explain their bizarre behavior, but it doesn't account for the brutal physical injuries. Then there are theories of military involvement. The area was known to be used for secret Soviet weapons testing. Some believe the hikers accidentally stumbled upon a military exercise or the site of a failed missile test. This could explain the loud noises some locals reported, the strange orange spheres seen in the sky, and perhaps even the violent, concussive injuries. The swift government cover-up, classifying the case files for decades, only fuels this theory. Were the hikers silenced to protect a state secret? Of course, no mystery of this magnitude is complete without more outlandish theories. Over the years, people have blamed everything from a Yeti attack to a UFO encounter. The local Mansi people have legends of spirits and wildmen haunting these mountains, and the strange, non-human footprints reported by some early searchers keep these stories alive. While there's no concrete evidence for a paranormal explanation, the sheer strangeness of the case keeps these possibilities lingering in the public imagination. The forensic anomalies add another layer of complexity. Traces of radioactivity were found on the clothing of some of the victims. Where did this radiation come from? It wasn't high enough to be lethal, but its presence is another unexplained piece of the puzzle. The paradoxical nature of the injuries is also a huge question. How could they suffer such massive internal trauma with no external wounds? It points to some kind of immense pressure or concussive force, something powerful and precise. The location itself, a remote and isolated wilderness, was the perfect setting for a secret to be buried. It was an uncontrolled environment, far from prying eyes, where something terrible could unfold and be easily hidden by the vast, unforgiving landscape. Was this a tragic convergence of natural phenomena, a secret military operation gone wrong, or something else entirely? The legacy of the Dyatlov Pass Incident endures because the mystery is still very much alive. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the case, concluding that an avalanche was the most likely cause. They argued a slab avalanche could have forced the hikers from their tent, and subsequent injuries could have occurred in the darkness and confusion. However, this theory is heavily contested. Investigators at the time found no evidence of an avalanche. The tent wasn't buried, and it doesn't fully explain the scattered bodies or the specific nature of the injuries. The story has seeped into our culture, inspiring books, documentaries, and films, each trying to piece together the fragments of that fateful night. It as a testament to our fascination with the unknown, and our desire for answers when logic fails us. What truly happened on Dead Mountain in 1959? We are left with photographs of smiling young people on the brink of an adventure and the horrifying aftermath. The truth remains buried under decades of snow, speculation, and secrecy. What do you think happened to the Dyatlov group? Was it a natural event, a government conspiracy, or something beyond our comprehension? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. If you found this case as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges what you think you know. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.